Hello everybody. So today I thought I would make a little video for you. It's based on a request from one of my followers. They wanted to know what was my favorite brand of oil pastel. And while there are many brands that I do use and I do really like, there is one that does stand out. And that is the Sennelier oil pastel brand. These particular pastels have often been referred to as having the texture of lipstick. I think I would even go one step further and say that they're more like a stick of butter. And the reason why I've made this particular comparison is that they are more so than any of my other pastels susceptible to temperature. The cooler it is, the harder they are, the warmer it is, it's almost as if they're melting in your hand. And I do know a lot of artists have made this complaint that they're extremely difficult to work with in hot temperatures. And I do agree with that. That is probably the only con that I can think of when it comes to Sennelier. One solution that I have found that does work for me when I'm using this brand and it's very, very hot is I tend to stick the box or my palette in the refrigerator for a few minutes before I'm going to use it. And that gives them the consistency that I need on a hot day. I often have to do this a few times in order to keep working with them, but it's a small trade-off. It's a very, very small negative for me because they work wonderfully. Okay, now I have noticed online when I have listened to some different reviews, people who aren't very familiar with the brand, they equate it with other pastels. And while it is an oil pastel, they are a breed unto themselves. Other oil pastels, and I have not heard of any other brand that does anything else, their sticks are opaque. They use opaque pigment. Now, what does this mean? Opaque pigment means that if you are layering, and it doesn't matter how many layers you put one on top of the other, the top layer is always going to completely cover what was underneath it. So for example, if I were to do a red layer, and then I wanted to put blue on top of this red, my top layer would be blue. This would be the color you would see. Now this does not include blending. This just means putting the color on top. Sennelier oil pastels come in 3 different forms. And this is where I think a lot of people have a bit of confusion. If you are familiar at all with acrylic and oil paints of artist quality, they also have these 3 different forms. And these are opaque, semi-transparent, and transparent. And this is where the Sennelier oil pastels come in. They have carried on these 3 different formats. So yes, there are some oil sticks, some colors, where the pigments are opaque and they're exactly the same as the other oil pastel brands in terms of covering the layer underneath it. But they also have 2 other types of pigments, which is a semi-transparent and a transparent. So semi-transparent is somewhere in between the 2. It's more opaque than the transparent, but it still allows some of the color to shine through. And the easiest way I can think of to explain the opaque and the transparency in terms of the pigments, opaque is, imagine you have a photograph and you put another photograph on top, you will not see the photograph that's underneath it. This is what most oil pastels are like. You just see the one on top. The transparent and the semi-transparent, they're like you have a photograph and then you put a film on top of it. Let's say the film makes your photograph look vintage. you can still see the color, you can still see the picture that's underneath, but this film that you put on top has somewhat altered the color or the perception that you have of what was underneath it. So this is how, when people first have, their first contact with the Sennelier oil pastels and they're not familiar with, or they don't know that they come in opaque, semi-transparent, transparent, and they look at it, they try them out, and they say, they have different consistency. Do I have a bad set? Or is this what they're like? But the reality is they're designed this way. They're designed this way for a reason, and it comes through in the painting. Okay, so this piece here is one that I did about half a year ago, I would say. I brought it out because I wanted to varnish it, and I thought, well, since it was all done using Sennelier, I thought it would be a really good model piece to demonstrate what I wanted to show you. I've had it curing in a cupboard for the last 6 months or so. It is almost totally cured. I'm going to apply a coat of varnish, actually maybe 2, just to make sure, because the person that was telling me that they were interested in this piece, they didn't really know if they wanted it framed with glass or without. And I thought, okay, to be on the safe side, I will apply some varnish. But to give you an idea, this painting, as I say, has not had any varnish sprayed to it, has literally been sitting in my cupboard for the last 6 months. This was done using Sennelier. I'm running my hand over this, and as you see, totally dry. So even though oil pastels are considered a wet medium, they do dry. Maybe not completely, they do dry. All right, now, going on with what I wanted to say about the transparency. Why would you want to use them? What's the purpose? Why not just use all opaque? And what I find, since I do a lot of portraiture, what happens is that the transparent and the semi-transparent pastel, they tend to unify my painting a lot. So for example, since I knew I wanted this background to be black and I wanted the horse to stand out of the shadows, I had to somehow unify the horse with the background. And what I did for this, if you look in all the darker areas, this is actually not a dark brown that I used. What I did is I applied the same shade of brown as you see on the face of the horse, but I applied a transparent black, which is known as Mars black, in all the areas that I wanted to be more in shadow. What this does is this creates a sense of three-dimensionality to your piece. It actually creates a little bit more drama, a bit more depth. Now, as I say, this is something that I find works very, very well for me. There are artists who use straight opaque. I have done so in other portraits as well, but by my choice, by my preference, I do like the way the transparent and the semi-transparent colors really, really, really blend and unify the piece. And in a sense, I find give it almost a greater sense of realism. So guys, I hope this video has helped to explain this brand to you a little bit more. I do invite everybody to give them a shot if they can. Give them a try. They are an expensive brand. I'm not going to lie. What I did when I started out, obviously I couldn't afford a full set. I still cannot afford a full set, but I knew what I wanted to paint, and I did buy individual sticks. And using those sticks little by little by little, I have added to my collection. I would love to have the full set of 120. It's my dream. One day I think I will. At the moment, I'm still at the stage where I'm purchasing the individual sticks. I do have a small set, but the individual sticks definitely are the way to go when you're starting out and you're still not sure if this is the brand for you. I do want to make it clear I'm not affiliated with Sennelier at all. I don't receive any money from them. This is my honest opinion. I love this brand. I would share it with everybody if possible. I do recommend it to you from the bottom of my heart. Give it a try. If you like this video, please give me a like, subscribe to the channel. Please share as well. And if you have any topics or any questions regarding what we discussed today or anything you would like to cover in a future video, please, write it in the comments, let me know. And I wish everybody a good day. Keep painting, keep smiling. Bye.